How social media affects the mental health. It's just social media. I only use it to connect with those I don't see day to day. I'm fine. It's no big deal. You ever pick up your phone and get on social media when you should in fact have been doing something else? Like sleeping, for example. Instead, you look up and you realize that you've been scrolling for hours upon hours, and then you wonder to yourself, well, where's all my time gone? All the statements mentioned at the beginning of this speech has all been said by many people, including myself. However, there are people who don't think that social media can in fact affect their mental health, even if only a little bit. There's people who struggle with lack of self-esteem due to idolizing the photos and the videos that they see on social media. The lack of sleep that comes from scrolling for hours and hours when you should in fact have been sleeping can cause things like depression and anxiety. Social media isn't all bad though. There's good things that come from using social media as well. You can in fact use it to connect with those family members that you haven't seen in a while. And it's also a great tool to promote businesses and more. Social media isn't this evil thing that's meant to hurt people. However, it can do some damage if not used wisely. As mentioned before, the developed issue of low self-esteem can be generated from the overuse of social media. The problem with low self-esteem, however, partly starts at home. Now, don't get me wrong, I do realize that this isn't always the case. People need to believe it and see it within themselves. There's only so much an outside source like you or myself can do to help those who suffer with low self-esteem. Sadly though, most of the times people don't see it within themselves, so then they turn elsewhere to get that information, and that's where social media comes in, even if they don't do it on purpose. Social media is relied upon heavily today to boost that self-esteem when it can in fact do the opposite. According to the article, does social media have a positive impact on the world? There's arguments that social media can actually contribute to feelings of sadness and loneliness. There's people who don't even feel like that they're even good enough if they don't get enough likes and comments on the pictures that they post. Sad, right? Social media has become everything to people nowadays. It's everyone's means of communication, virtual interactions, and a way to present oneself in a light that is accepted by others. If a photo or video that you shared isn't accepted, people now use the comment section to tear you down and make sure you wish that you never posted at all. They'll cancel just about anybody. According to the article, cancel culture, social justice, or mob rule. In today's world, canceling someone is the act of punishing individuals, usually by way of social media, for words or actions deemed unacceptable. There's also another article by the name of Social Media that shares a study on some college students who actually mentioned that they felt worse the more that they use Facebook. People only show you what they want you to see on social media. While we may be mentally and verbally comparing ourselves to others, those people may in fact be doing the same to someone else. It's quite the dirty cycle. And then we begin to wonder, well, why our lives aren't as lively or as fun as the next person that we've seen on social media. So we spend all night scrolling and falling deeper into the rabbit hole that is social media. Now, I again am guilty of falling victim to this social media rabbit hole when I should have in fact been sleeping. And then I wake up the next morning and will wonder why I have a headache or why am I so tired? So I began to cure that issue with another issue, which is my coffee habits. However, this can affect the way in which we sleep. Did you know that the change in sleep pattern can aid in things like depression and anxiety? According to the article, chronic sleep deprivation and gender-specific risk of depression in adolescents, there's some studies that show that sleep deprivation is associated with the likelihood of about 40% higher number of people that report depression in young ones aged 11 to 17. Our teens today are growing up in a world that is fixated on social media. So the depression that comes from staying up all night scrolling on social media can just further impact those low self-esteem issues that I mentioned in the beginning. On the other end, however, even though social media has its downfalls if used poorly, if used correctly, it can do a lot of good. According to the author Al Mohamed in his article, The Effects of Social Media Marketing, ever since the early 2000s, the main feature of social media has been its interactions amongst its users. Now, given that wide range of interactions, a lot of up-and-coming businesses use these to promote those new businesses, and rightfully so. For example, before choosing a new hairstylist or for someone to do my nails, I check their social media first just to make sure that they're good at their craft. And I know I'm not the only one. As social media platforms continue to grow, the more people you can now get in contact with, and the more people that can get in contact with you as well. People and companies from all around the world are able to view your work too. It's no secret that social media is widely used by enterprises as a social media marketing tool. There's even a social media specifically for companies and businesses where employers can find resumes and job seekers can post their resumes. I'm sure we've all heard of LinkedIn. And social media, the use of social media has become quite important in the business's marketing strategy tool. Almost just as important as having a website for your business. Here's a chart that shows, here we go. Here's a chart that shows companies the fundamentals of social media marketing and how to be successful. If you look here where I circled, there's an example that they show that when posting in a company's content, you want to post things that are useful, entertaining, and relevant. You also want to make sure you post photos, videos, lives, and stories to make sure you're connecting with all of your customers. It's also a plus that it happens to be a very cost-effective tool for these companies. In conclusion, while social media does have its good qualities and can be used to do more than imagine. However, if overly used or if used incorrectly, it can weigh heavily on the mental health. Like everything else, social media must be used in moderation. The more it's overly used and idolized, the more damage it can cause. Staying up all night, scrolling on social media can pose more problems than anything else. The sleep deprivation that comes to scrolling all night can interfere with day-to-day life and cause things like depression and anxiety. So if we put the phones down and get a good night's rest, we can dominate the next day and the days to come.